don't even know where to begin, but I'm gonna try to let you in. Inside my mind, the dark parts we all hide, all those things that I've struggled with like lust and pride, anxiety, depression, and addiction too. Sometimes I swear there's not a thing I haven't walked through, the crushing, the pressing on every side. But you'd never know it. Behind a smile I'd hide it, cause you don't need to know how deep down that it goes. This hurt, this pain that I won't let show. I've been hopeless and reckless, felt abandoned and useless, and I've struggled to see that all this pain had a purpose. And maybe you feel that way too. Maybe you feel like there's a darkness or sadness in you. Maybe the weight of your world is caving in on you, and it's getting harder and harder to see the chance for breakthrough, and you're sick of the fight, cause by the end of the night, you're at the end of your rope, and you don't know how to cope, but there's hope. Yes, even when the darkness seems too great. Yes, even when there's something inside that you hate, cause the darkness of this world, it bows at his name, and that dark in you and me, well, it does the same. Do you hear me?
Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, 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 you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus. Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus.
There is more to this life. There is more than just this. There's more than pain and suffering and chasing some bliss. And hey, I get it. You've probably heard this before, and the last time you heard this name, you said next door. I don't need to know more, cause why would I want to know a man that doesn't love me just as I am? But you've been lied to, because that's exactly where he meets you. The real you, the messed up you, the broken you. He wants you, he loves you, and he'll carry you through and show you the only way out is from 6 feet underground. Let him capture your heart, let his presence in that dark, cause his name can do more. Just open the door.
Your name is a light that the shadows can't deny. Your name cannot be overcome. Your name is a light forever lifted high. Your name cannot be overcome. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus, Jesus, you silence fear. Jesus, Jesus, you make the darkness tremble. Jesus,
How many times have we trembled in the face of something we couldn't cope with and we felt like was overwhelming? How many times has the darkness that's come against us caused us to shake in fear? Isn't it amazing to know that what we've been terrified of is terrified of the one who's leading us? Why don't you open your heart with me? Jesus, we take this moment and we pause and we just want to give you all the honor and the glory and the praise. We recognize it is a choice to look at our circumstances or to look at our Christ, to be confused and to give into the darkness, or to look towards you and find the light and the hope we need. So we choose to praise you. Jesus, we choose to lift you up over everything going on around us or within us. Jesus, we choose to make you the center of our lives, and we give you the praise. We choose joy today. Joy is not a feeling, it's a decision. And Jesus, we make the decision with our eyes on you to give you praise. And would you do that with me one more time? Come on, everybody. Make some noise for Jesus. Awesome. Well, welcome to church, everybody. You may be seated if you're at one of our physical locations. And so glad that you're with us this weekend. To all of you who are joining us online, a big hello to you. Thank you for being a part of this weekend as well. And then I want to say a big hello to our Hokesson location. So Newark, will you help me make some noise for everybody online, everybody at Hokesson? Come on, yeah, give it up, show some love. And we are in week 4 of a series that we've been calling Mind Games. So if you're joining us for the first time, you can get caught up with where we've been over the past few weeks on our YouTube channel or our app, catch up on all the messages. And I would encourage you to do that. We've been talking about how to find hope for the struggle, strength for the struggle within. It's been an incredible series. In fact, one of those weekends, a couple of weeks ago, I was up here on the hot seat answering your questions about mental health that I had not seen in advance, which was challenging for my mental health. So if you haven't experienced that yet, you can find that again on YouTube or our app and just get caught up to speed. But before we jump into today, I want to share 2 things with you on the front end. And number 1 is that over the past 4 weeks, you have helped plant 25 life-giving churches around the nation. So yeah, pretty exciting. And all across the U.S., we've been planting churches these past few weeks. When you give here, we take the first part of what you give. So we tithe as a church. We take at least the first 10% of everything you give here, and we give it away. It's what we do first. And part of that includes planting these churches. And because of your generosity, on day 1 of those 25 churches, 180 people said yes to Jesus. Isn't that incredible? So thank you for your consistent faithfulness and generosity. It's making a difference. There are probably a bunch of these cities you've never been to, but your giving has been there. And I'm just so grateful for that. So proud of all of you who are part of that. And that is just one part of how we give back. In the next few weeks, I'll be sharing with you about our Christmas offering, which is coming up, and how we can make a difference together this year outside the walls of our physical locations and outside of the spaces we're already in, how we can serve people in need and get the message of Jesus out to our region. But the second thing I want to share with you is what's coming up this month. And I know you heard a couple of these things already, but just want to make sure you're in the know, because it's going to be a really full next few weeks and a powerful next few weeks. So Converge is coming. If you are a middle or high school student, yeah, there's some Converge representation in this room at least. Hope there is at Hokesson and online as well. But if you're a middle or high school student or the parent of one, you're going to want to make plans for that. It's an incredible environment. It's this coming Tuesday night, and you can find all the details on our website or again on our app. Then next weekend, baptism weekend is coming, everybody. So that's going to be a party. And if you have not yet taken the step of baptism, this is your chance to go public with your faith. So you can sign up to be baptized next weekend, and we'd love to celebrate that with you. And then speaking of parties, if you serve on our J team, the biggest party of the J team calendar is coming in just a week and a half. It is J-Team Night. It's going to be something very special, unlike anything we've done before. It's going to be incredible. If you serve on our J-Team, you're invited. If you're like, well, how do I get invited? You have a week and a half to join the J-Team, all right? So, but if you are on the J-Team, you're already invited. It's going to be amazing. And then last but not least, the weekend after that, 2 weeks from now, we're kicking off a new series called Upside Down that honestly I've been preparing for about 9 or 10 months, ever since the end of last year. And I'm going to be sharing with you, just giving you a look at where we're headed as a church in the future. I believe that God has for us. And the future is bright, everybody. It's going to be a great series, so it'll fire up your faith. And then just here's a little spoiler alert, just so you know, At the Movies is coming back in November. So, yeah. So if you're not sure what that is, just hang out here for the next few weeks and you'll see. It's always a really cool experience and cool series. It's going to be amazing, an amazing fall. I hope you don't miss any of it. But for today, as we continue this series on mental health, we're going to dig a little deeper, okay? So again, I want to encourage you that if you missed the first few weeks, go back and catch up on those messages. We've talked about some practical ways to find hope when we're under mental stress or we're going through mental illness or something like that. But for today, the reality is when anxiety or depression or addiction or anger or grief show up in our lives or in the life of somebody we care about, we often find ourselves wondering, whatever our background with God or church, whatever we believe about any of that, we often find ourselves asking this question: what is the point of all of this? And I'm not going to ask you to lift your hand if you've ever wondered that, but I bet there are a lot of you that could identify with this. I've wrestled with this in some of the lowest moments of my life. What is the point of my life? I just can't see the point of my life. Have you ever wondered that? Again, you don't have to lift your hand unless you're online, in which case you got nothing to lose. So just go ahead and lift it up. But just, I wonder how many of us have asked that question. What is my life really supposed to be about? And then for any of us who are trying to keep our faith in God, who believe in God, trying to do life with God in focus, I think there's another uncomfortable question, and that is, why is there such a gap between what we think faith in God will do for us and what our lives actually end up looking and feeling like in the moment? So I thought that having God in my life would make things better. Why isn't it? I mean, have you ever had that question? Like, God, I just thought if I had you in my life, I wouldn't have to go through some of these struggles that I'm going through. I wouldn't have to face some of these things that I'm experiencing. If you've ever wondered that, then today is for you. And it's an important question. What is the point of my life? So let's hear what Jesus has to say about it. It's in the book of John in the New Testament, one of 4 biographies of Jesus' life. And Jesus says this, John 10, I tell you the truth, I am the gate for the sheep. Now, some may say, well, I don't want to be called a sheep, and I'm kind of uncomfortable with that. Why? I don't want to be a sheep. I mean, sheep are a little bit, Well, Jesus, when he gives us this kind of analogy, has 2 options. We can be a sheep or a goat. And in Jesus' definition, a goat is not the greatest of all time, just so you know. It's like goats are not good. You have to go read the Bible to figure that out, but I'm just telling you, goats not good, sheep good. So Jesus says, I'm the gate for the sheep, and all who came before me, watch this, everyone who came before me, they were thieves and robbers, but the true sheep did not listen to them. So a couple years after Susie and I got married, I woke up one night, middle of the night, with this feeling something's not right. I don't know if you've ever had this experience. It was like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I just sat straight up in bed thinking something's not right. And so I went downstairs. I looked around. I looked outside. Everything seemed fine. I checked the doors. Doors were locked. Windows closed. Everything seemed fine. There was no intruder in our house. We lived in a little townhouse at the time. No intruder there. Lucky for them. Not sure why you laughed. I mean, it's a very serious thing. It would have been bad for them. All right, so moving on. So I'm very aware of my physical size, just so you know. This is not delusion. So I went back to bed, but I'm scrappy. So I went back to bed and, went back to sleep, woke up the next morning, went downstairs and discovered that sometime in the middle of the night, probably when I woke up and felt like things weren't right, somebody had broken the window of our car, which was parked on the street in front of our house, and they had stolen all the stuff that was inside. All our stuff was gone. So a thief had been there, and I missed it. You know the difference between a thief and a robber? So both steal, but they go about it differently. A thief does it subtly while we're not paying attention. A thief kind of slips in the middle of the night while we're asleep. We're not alert. We're not prepared. And they steal what matters to us. But a robber, it's more sudden, abrupt. They get in our face. They wave a gun or a knife. They hold us up. And Jesus says that all who came before him, everyone who's ever promised us, everything that's ever promised us a fulfilling life, was either a thief or a robber, either snuck in and stole our hope while we weren't paying attention, or just robbed us outright. But the true sheep, the people who really know what's going on, in other words, the people who see Jesus as their shepherd, as their leader, as the one who's guiding their life, they're not deceived by the thieves and the robbers. They don't listen to the thieves and robbers. Instead, they keep their attention on Jesus. Now, you may find that a lot to take in if you're not sure what you believe about Jesus yet, but he says, hey, I'm telling you the truth. I'm the gate. I'm the only way to get to a life worth living. And then he says it again. He wants to make sure we get it. He says, yes, I am the gate, and those who come in through me will be saved. They will come and go freely and will find good pastures. They're going to find what they're looking for. They're going to find what their souls are hungry and thirsty for. But you got to come in through the gate. Jesus insists that the only way to get to God is through him. He says, you got to understand, Jesus says, I'm not one of the gates. I'm not a gate. I'm not a possible gate. I'm the gate, which is a little bit confrontational in our generation for sure, because maybe you've even thought this or said this. It was, hey, all roads lead to God. It's kind of like saying all roads lead to Vancouver. No, they don't. Some lead to Miami, just so you know. Some lead to Maine. Some lead to Seattle. They don't all lead to Vancouver. And sometimes we get this kind of concept, well, just all roads lead to God. And I think Jesus would say, yeah, you can take any road you want as long as it eventually gets you to me. And then there's one gate. There's just one way to come to me. You say, well, I don't know if I believe that. I would suggest you should either believe Jesus or dismiss him, but there's not a lot of point in landing in the middle. Well, it's quiet in here right now. But that's the reality. Like, Jesus is clear. He says, I'm the gate, and only those who come in through him will be saved, rescued, forgiven of everything that has kept us from God. Only those who come in through the gate of Jesus really experience this fulfilling life. He said, well, that seems very exclusive. I know. I wouldn't believe it unless the person who changed my life said it. And since Jesus said it, I believe it. And not only that, but he says, hey, it's not just like you get saved, one day you're going to heaven. No. A whole life begins where those who believe in Jesus, he says, can come and go freely. Think about that. That's the kind of life we're looking for, right? It's a free life where we're spiritually and mentally free. We're not enslaved. We're not in bondage. We're not oppressed. We're not doing anything out of obligation or because we're trying to impress people or because we got some kind of self-made standard we've got to meet. We're just in relationship with God. We put our faith in Jesus. Now we can really start living. We can come and go freely. We live a free life. And then Jesus says something that I think holds the key to our question, what is the point of my life? Remember, he said, I'm the gate. If you want to enter, if you want access to God, you got to come through me. I'm the gate. And then he says the thief's purpose. Remember, a thief, according to Jesus' definition, is anyone or anything that promises to be able to give us everything we need for a fulfilling life, but isn't able to keep that promise. He said the thief's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. But my purpose is to give them, who? The sheep, the people who believe in him, a rich and satisfying life. So there it is. Knowing Jesus is supposed to make our lives better. And not just a little better, not just superficially better or briefly better. Jesus says, my whole purpose, the point, the reason I came is to give the people who look to me as their shepherd, their leader, and their Lord a rich and satisfying life. So, why is it that sometimes we feel like we're not experiencing it? Maybe some of us are brand new to following Jesus. Maybe some of us are still trying to figure out what we believe. And you're welcome here, by the way. You don't have to believe anything you're not ready to believe yet. I'm not here to twist your arm. But some of us are still trying to figure it out. Some of us have started following Jesus. Some of us, listening right now, we started following Jesus, and at first everything was great. We're like, oh, look at this new life. I've got community. I've got this sense of meaning to my life. I've got a relationship with God. I know my sins are forgiven. And then we ran into the brick wall of some reality, right? Some of us have been following Jesus for a long time, and we're struggling with some things, and we're wondering, like, what's the gap here? Well, I think one of the reasons we don't always experience a rich and satisfying life, I know this is true for me, is that we're trying to get to it some other way than through the gate. So what happens for us, I think a lot of our mental pain comes from elevating people or things into a godlike position and worshiping them. And we kind of put all of our hopes in people or things. Maybe it's a job, maybe it's a possession, a relationship, a reputation, a desire, it's our net worth, our comfort, whatever it may be, our career path, whatever it is, we elevate that above Jesus, and then we begin to treat a good thing like it's a God thing. And we start to treat it like it's the gate. Come on, think about the word picture there. We're like, yeah, I can get into the life I really want through this career. I could get into the life I really want through this degree. I could get into the life I really want by getting this person to marry me or getting this person to be my best friend or whatever it may be. And we start to treat that person or thing like the gate until one night we wake up going, something's not right. Because the reality is that thing or person over-elevated above Jesus became a thief, broke the car window, stole all our stuff, and we're like, something's not right, but I don't know what it is. I don't feel as happy as I used to feel. And so I think sometimes we try to get to the life we want some other way other than through a relationship with Jesus and following him, and then one day we just discover the gate's locked. Come on, have you ever been there? Like, oh, this is finally, I got the job. How many of us celebrated the day we got the job, and 5 years later, like, I hate this job. The gate's locked. What's going on? Because it's never meant to be the gate. We're supposed to come and go through Jesus, having Jesus as the center of our lives, but we made something else the center of our lives. And so we get a lot of mental pain that way that we could avoid if we would keep Jesus as the gate and let other things fit where they're supposed to fit. But there's something else going on here, because Jesus says, he uses this word, purpose. He says that his purpose is to give us a rich and satisfying life. Jesus was focused on that. Here's what Jesus knew. He knew that purpose is the point. So we're asking the question, what's the point of life? The point of life is purpose. Here's what I mean. For Jesus, the point of life was not what was going on around him. It's not what was happening in the lives of other people, whether people appreciated him or rejected him. That was not the focus of his life. For Jesus, the point of life was what he had come to do in spite of what went on around him. He had this purpose, and he knew that nothing could keep him from his purpose. Circumstances didn't have the power to keep him from his purpose. People didn't have the power to keep him from his purpose. Rejection didn't have the power to keep him from his purpose. He was just so focused on it. So a few years ago, I had this aha moment when I realized either Jesus is a liar or I need a new definition of rich and satisfying. I was like, only one of those two has to be true. Because up until that point, my definition of rich and satisfying was things going the way I wanted them to go. Anybody else? It's kind of like, that's a rich and satisfying life. My wife does what I expected her to do. My kids do what I expected them to do. The other drivers on the road do what I expect them to do. They understand that I am clearly the most important person driving today. They should move over to the right, put their flashers on, and let me go by because my mission matters most. That's a rich and satisfying life. Come on, how many of us? Yeah. Woo. A rich and satisfying life, that's when I look at my bank account and every time I look at it, it's a little bit bigger than it was before. Rich and satisfying. Rich and satisfying is when I go to work and everybody treats me with respect. Rich and satisfying. Rich and satisfying is when everything in my life is going the way I want it to go, when everything is up and to the right, when I'm happy, when I have good feelings. Oh, I feel good today. Rich and satisfying life. That was my definition. Things going the way I wanted them to go. People doing what I wanted them to do. And the truth is, so many of us have this picture of that being what our life is supposed to be like. And when our experiences don't align with it, we become unsettled. And we ask the question, well, what's the point then? This is hard. This is not what I thought it would be. This is not what I was hoping for. It's not what I was expecting. So most of us either think the point of life is pleasure or the point of life is pain. But the truth is, elevated above the real point of life, one's a thief and the other's a robber. And here's what I mean. If we think the point of life is pleasure, happiness, external fulfillment, wealth, success, fun, the absence of hard things, whatever our definition of pleasure and joy might be, if we think that's the point of life, then when pain shows up, as it will for all of us, we won't know what to do with it. And some of us are there. When pain shows up, we're like, this doesn't fit my framework. My theory for my life was, my life is supposed to be easy. So when it's not, when our job sucks, or our girlfriend leaves, or our parents' health fails, or our finances tank, or our loneliness becomes unbearable, we have no framework for that. And so we become unsettled. And this is where our mental health comes into play, because we get depressed or anxious or addicted or all of the above. And we may have a chemical or genetic thing, and we've talked about that during this series, that's triggering that, but our framework of life isn't helping. And we begin to kind of spiral. And so what do? If we think pleasure is the point of life, happiness, the absence of hard things, good feelings, if we think that's the point of life, what will we do when pain comes? We will try to escape. We will hide. We will medicate with alcohol or drugs or porn or food or gambling or internet surfing or sleeping all day, or the list goes on. Anything that will help us hide and medicate, because if the point of life is pleasure, we have to get some whatever the cost, right? And isn't it amazing that what we began to pursue because we thought it would help us be who we wanted to be and be free ends up enslaving us, and the gate is locked. And we're chasing after happiness. We're like, I deserve to be happy. Some of the people who are the most miserable are the people who are that I know, are so convinced that they deserve to be happy. I mean, none of them are at church today, but think about those other people. You ever had an experience with someone? You don't have to indicate that it was in the mirror. Have you ever had an experience with someone who's like, I deserve to be happy? So what do? When we don't feel happy, we keep going to that false gate. And one day, and the thing is, it's a thief, so it'll keep swinging open until one day we go and the gate's locked and our values have been stolen from us. Our relationships stolen from us because we made pleasure the point of our lives. And we're thinking, all I want is to be happy. But happiness, as important as it is not the point of life. It's just not. So others of us become convinced that pain is the point of life. And we think life is supposed to be hard. That's my framework. And so when pleasure shows up, the real kind, the meaningful kind, we don't know what to do with it. So we self-sabotage. We destroy good relationships or jobs or finances. We start arguments we don't need to start. And we start trouble we don't need to start. And people who care about us look on and think, what are you doing? You're really blowing it. I'll tell you what we're doing. We're looking for the gate. We're searching. Our framework is my life is hard, so I can't risk too much because it probably might fail. It probably won't work out. When things are going well, we think that's dangerous. I need to mess this up. I can't take too much risk. Things can't go too well. So what do? We harbor silly resentments. We slack off on our jobs. We blame the people in charge. We gladly accept a victim mentality. Why? To confirm our theory that life is about pain. And what do? We just keep walking down the same dark alleys and getting a knife or a gun waved in our face. Oh, that just confirms it. I'm always going to be robbed. And there are opportunities for joy all around us, but we can't see them because we made pain the point of our life. And we self-sabotage. We self-sabotage because pain, as real as it may be, is not the point. Well, into all of this, I told you we're going to go a little deeper today. Into all of this, Jesus comes along and he humbles himself to experience both. Think about it. He's God, but he lays aside his God card. And he wraps himself in the human condition. And he experiences both pleasure and pain. Sometimes in the same day. You read about Jesus' life in the New Testament, and you see sometimes in the same day there's great happiness and pleasure. There's healing, there's joy. People are so grateful for him. And then in the same day there's rejection or there's doubt. His disciples let him down. He experiences both. And what does he do? He never makes either of them the point. Instead, he stays focused on his purpose. See, for Jesus, in the end, neither our happiness nor our hurt will define our life. What will define our life is what we did through faith in him, regardless of the pleasure or pain it brought. That's what will define our life. And that's purpose. And our purpose is the point. And for Jesus, he would say our purpose is to find and follow him. Our purpose is to find Jesus and then follow him, coming and going freely, whatever our circumstances. To experience the freedom, that's what makes life rich and satisfying. It isn't what happens to us, it's what happens through us as we surrender our lives to Jesus and make the decision to do what he has called us to do and what he's given us the ability and the capacity to do, regardless of our circumstances, to make knowing and following him the point of our lives. That's what makes life rich and satisfying. Because when we know Jesus, we know there's always an unlocked gate. There's always an open door. It doesn't matter what it looks like right now. Jesus is not a thief. He's not a robber. Listen to me, somebody. He's not going to pretend to be for us and turn out to be against us. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And when we know him, we know pleasure and happiness may come. Pain and hurt may come. I may find all of those gates locked at times in my life, but that's okay because they're not the point. Jesus is the point. He's always the gate. I can come and go freely through him. That's a rich and satisfying life. When we know we now have the power to be free because we've met Jesus. We used to be enslaved to whatever was happening around us or inside of us. But now we have a greater power in us because we know Jesus and we're free. You say, well, is that just some fuzzy religious idea? No, it's very practical. Because what it means is when I make Jesus the center of my life, I have the power to let go of what I can't control, how much pleasure or pain I'm going to experience. And then at the same time, I have the power to take responsibility for what I can control, which is how I will live by faith regardless of pleasure or pain. I used to be a slave to whatever I was facing or feeling, but now I'm free. I can come and go freely. Imagine what your life would look like if your circumstances lost their ability to control your life. And you knew you always had the power when every other gate was locked to come and go through Jesus. And to do something with your life that matters in relationship with him. Now, I'm not suggesting pleasure and pain, happiness and hurt don't matter. They do. They matter a lot. Jesus doesn't intend for us when we're enjoying a great meal or a promotion or an achievement or a season to say, well, I'm not really going to enjoy this because it's not the point. That's self-righteous silliness. Can I just tell you, I had a great meal last night. I preached and then we took care of everything that I needed to take care of, and then went to dinner last night and I had a great meal. There were a lot of calories, people. And I enjoyed it. Jesus wants us to enjoy our lives. But I didn't turn that meal into the point. So I was able to enjoy it. The moment we start worshiping something that doesn't have the capacity to be worshiped, we will end up resenting it. But if we make Jesus the center of our lives, then when pleasure or happiness comes, we can enjoy it. So enjoy it. Just let it come and go freely. Because it's not the point, but it's there to be enjoyed. And Jesus doesn't intend for us when we're suffering with mental illness or grief or a broken relationship or just bone deep weariness. He doesn't intend for us to say, well, I'm not really feeling that because I'm a follower of Jesus. That's not the point. No, that's unhelpful denial. Really feel it, but let it come and go freely. My anxiety is real. It's just not my God. My grief is real. It's just not the end of my story. It's a real thing, but I hold it with a loose grip because I know I've always got the gate. I've always got a way to get into the presence of God and get focused on something bigger than what I'm going through. Life becomes rich and satisfying when we stop obsessing over what we're feeling, trying desperately to make our happiness last or our hurt mean something, and we simply ask this question: God, what have you given me the ability to do right now? Regardless of my circumstances, that's our purpose. And then we realize I can choose. I used to be a slave to what I was experiencing or what I was feeling, but now because of Jesus, I can choose and I can come and go freely. I can't control other people's actions, but I can control my response. I can't control the economy, but I can control whether or not I put God first. I can't control what the doctor says, but I can control whether or not I live every day as if it could be my last. Why? Because I'm free. I have a gate. I have a way. In the space between what happens to me that I can't control and what I hope will happen for me that I can't control lies the ability to choose to believe Jesus and do what I can control. And in that space is where our purpose gets lived out, and we begin to understand that what happened to us or what we hope will happen for us is not the point. My purpose is the point. I know Jesus, and he's the point of my life. I'm focused on following him. So when we're asking, what's the point of my life? We're asking the right question. We just need to be willing to hear the right answer. And Jesus says, I'm the point. Through me, your life has purpose. Now, some of us right now are going, yeah, but how do I know what my purpose is exactly? Like, I need to know specifically. Can I tell you, purpose is not that mysterious? We make it mysterious because we have the luxury of needing everything to mean something profound. But purpose is not that mysterious. Purpose is what we can do in any situation to center our lives on Jesus and make someone else's life better. Purpose is letting go of what we can't control and taking responsibility for what we can. That's purpose. And is partnering with Jesus to make someone else's life better. You say, well, whose life better? Whoever happens to be around us. Well, they say, well, I don't really want to make their life better. That's a different issue. But purpose is whoever happens to be around us, I let go of what I can't control. Can't control how they receive it. Can't control what happened to me earlier this morning. Can't control, what's going to happen to me tomorrow. But here's what I can control. I can control finding a way to partner with Jesus and make this person's life better. And so I embrace that. You say, well, where do we do that? Wherever we happen to be. Whenever we're awake. Why? Because that's what Jesus did. He said, it's my whole purpose. Give people a rich and satisfying life. It's the whole reason I'm here. You say, well, how? Get creative. It is not that complicated. There's purpose all around you. You just haven't been able to see it because you've elevated either the pleasure you're chasing or the pain you didn't ask for above the point of your life, which is following Jesus and making a difference in what you can control. It's not that mysterious. It's right there in front of us. There's a guy in the J group I'm a part of who a couple of years ago became preoccupied with this thought of how do I make the lives of people with special needs better? And so he started working on it, and he organized a prom for young adults with autism and Down syndrome and other special circumstances. And when COVID canceled the prom, he moved it outside. And it became a drive-through prom, and every student and young adult who came, every single one was crowned king and queen. And then he didn't stop there. He's been helping some of those young adults find a home here in this community of faith, start connecting and serving. He's bringing together people with special needs and people recovering from addiction so that they can learn from each other and do life together. And that's purpose. And if you ask that guy, hey, during these past couple of years while you've been doing this, have you experienced any happiness? He would say, well, yeah, a lot. And if you ask him, well, have you experienced any hurt, any pain? He would say, yeah, a lot. He just refused to make either the point. The point is, what can I do right now to center my life on Jesus and make someone else's life better? That's purpose. And your purpose is the point of your life. Center your life on Jesus, to let go of what you can't control, which is what you feel in any given moment, what's going on around you, what happened to you, what might happen to you. Let go of all of that. And I get the anxiety if we didn't have a gate, but we have a gate. We have a shepherd. We have a leader and Lord. So permission, freedom to let go of everything you can't control right now. Then you'll be able to see clearly enough to take responsibility for everything you can control right now, which is your attitude, your responses, your decisions, your choices, how you treat that person who mistreats you, what you do with your time, your energy, your money. That's all the stuff you can control. So listen, we're going to turn a corner. Next weekend we wrap up the series. We're going to bring it up. We're going to celebrate baptism. But for today, I'm going to challenge you. You can keep desperately chasing happiness. I deserve to be happy. You can keep stubbornly holding on to hurt. What happened to me, I just can't get over it. My circumstances, I just can't get past them. Or you can let go of your life, the one you're trying to squeeze into your broken definition. And you can give it just as it is to Jesus. And what will happen when you do is you're going to find that pleasure becomes something temporary to be enjoyed rather than something permanent to be obsessed over. And pain becomes something temporary to be endured rather than something permanent to be obsessed over. And purpose becomes the point. So I'm challenging you today. And the last thing I want to say about this before we close is that you won't find your purpose alone. Some of us are going, because that was my plan. I was going to go isolate, figure this out in my own brain. No, remember, Jesus, when Jesus says stuff, it's never by accident. It's very intentional. He came to give a rich, satisfying life to his sheep. I don't know a ton about sheep, but I do know this. Sheep flourish together. Anytime you hear about one sheep that's gotten separated from the rest of the sheep and is trying to figure out its own life, it's a bad day for that sheep. If you read the Bible, like Jesus even talks about it, he's like, there were 100 sheep, one wandered away. It was in a bad way. Shepherd went and got it, and what did the shepherd do? Bring it back to the flock. And so does he go, well, I want Jesus in my life, and I want purpose in my life. I don't want the sheep. I don't like being around these sheep. They're smelly. They're annoying. These sheep require me to come out of my shell. Can I just tell you, if you know Jesus, you are a sheep, which means you're smelly. You can be annoying. You require the rest of us to come out of our shell, but we haven't given up on you. So if you haven't come to Plugged In yet, you don't have to be a part of this church. We're just one church, all right? There are lots of great churches. But if you're not a part of a life-giving local community of believers, come to Plugged In. We'll help you. We'll help you figure out how to follow Jesus if that's your next step. We'll help you get connected in a group. We'll help you find a place to serve on the team. Because purpose is about knowing the shepherd and spending time with the sheep. And there's something about having to rub wool with other sheep that makes us better and stronger. And then for all of us who maybe have wandered away from the shepherd or the sheep, and you've been wondering, what is the point of my life? Make a mad dash back to Jesus and his people. Because he's the gate. And the point of your life is to know Jesus and then to let go of what you can't control and take responsibility for what you can to make someone else's life better. And if you would say, I receive that today, that hits home. Will you just shoot your hand up here in Newark and Hocassin? Will you lift your hand up high? Online, let us know. This hits home for me. Let me pray. Father, we love you. We honor you. Thank you for sending Jesus to save us from our sins, what had separated us from you. And thank you that now, because we know your son, Jesus, we can come and go freely. Our circumstances don't control us. They're real, but they don't control us. Our emotions don't control us. Our illness doesn't control us. Our struggle doesn't control us. You are the gate. We can always enter through you. Make our hearts resilient today, we pray, knowing we're free in Jesus. And for some of you today, maybe you don't have a real relationship with God yet, and that's your next step, to say yes to following Jesus. If that's you, I want to lead us again in prayer. This is your opportunity. This is your moment, right where you are. I want everyone to join me. Just open your heart up to God. And then if that's you, if you want to begin a real relationship with God, right where you are, whisper out a prayer of faith, something like this. Jesus, today I'm giving my life to you. I believe in you. I'm going to follow you by faith. And if that's you, while everyone around you stays focused on God, if you would say, I want to be included in that prayer, will you just lift your hand, hold it up high again here in Newark, Hocassin, hold it up high. I'm putting my faith in Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And then everybody, will you help me? Come on, let's give Jesus all the praise. He's the point.